Hey everybody, Neil Malik from Knack Training bringing you another Everyday Office video. Today's video is about how to color code different tiers of information in a column chart and allow that to just dynamically update. As you can see in this chart right here, I've got a chart where any of the salespeople who are below their quota have a pale blue column. Anybody who's met their quota has a dark blue column, and anybody who has surpassed the President's Club level has a green column. So you can tell here that we're not talking about these being hard numbers that are applied to everybody across the board. Different salespeople who are in different regions, who have different experience levels, they have different quotas. And so here, one of our salespeople has surpassed their own President's Club value, even though they're not necessarily the biggest value in the bunch. And there are a lot of people who have hit their quota, and their quotas were very low. So let's see how this is done. If we take the original data like this, you can see I have got my salespeople in a column down the left. I have their current sales as well as what their quota is and what the President's Club level is for that particular employee. Each of the people has a quota that's made up, and then their President's Club level is 1.5 times whatever their sales quota is. So what we do in order to make this happen is we decide to create a little table that compares year-to-date sales against both the sales quota and the President's Club. Let's go over here to this next tab. As you can see, I've made a tab here called Calculation because I like to split out the calculation that goes into the chart apart from the original data as well as apart from the actual chart itself. It helps people focus. So to make this little calculation, the first thing I need to do is grab all these salespeople. I'll just go ahead and copy the salespeople from the Data tab. And then anytime that you want your data to be conditionally formatted in a chart, you're always going to do the same thing, which is to create different columns or different calculations for each of the different colors that you have in mind. So in my example here, I have a column type labeled for lower, under. You see here it's labeled as under. Anybody who's under their quota gets one color. Anybody who is over their quota, who has met their quota, you can see here I've made a column called quota, and they get the darker blue column. And then here you can see I've made another column called presidents. So let's make sure that those three things happen. We have people who are under quota. We have people who are who have met quota, and people who are in the President's Club. And now what you need to do is use logic functions. The logic functions here will gauge whether somebody's value should go into the column for under quota, the column for met quota, or the column for the President's Club. So the way that we make that judgment call is different for each of the different columns. Under quota and President's Club are very easy because if you're under quota, you're also under the President's Club level. And if you're over the President's Club level, you're also over the quota. But if you met the quota, if you're in this middle one here, you're both above the quota and below the President's Club. So let's see if we can make that happen. The first judgment call is their sales value below the quota amount that they have? So that's equal sign if. And the logical test that we have to play here is their year-to-date sales value in cell C4, is it less than their sales quota in cell D4? If that's true, then these people need to be listed as being under quota. Their number value needs to be passed through. So we choose cell C4 there. But if they are not under quota, we don't want to see their number there. So we do a little comma 0. And as you can see, that first person is in fact under quota. I'll go ahead and format that so it looks like a dollar amount. Autofill it down, and you can see that there are certain people who are not under their quota, so they aren't listed here. Let's go ahead and do the other easy one, which is I want to know whether your sales value is above your President's Club level. So again, we go equal sign if, and we make the judgment call of is cell C4 greater than or equal to cell E4. If it's greater than or equal to the President's Club level, then they are in the President's Club, and their number value should be output. So that's comma, cell C4. But if they're not, comma 0. Exactly the same as if they're under their sales quota here, but we're saying if they have met or exceeded the President's Club level, that's what we're interested in. As you can see, that one's a 0, but the only person 65574609 who has surpassed the President's Club level is there. Let's go ahead and test that out real quick. 65594609. As you can see, their year-to-date sales are over $500,000, and their President's Club quota was set to $420,000. So now comes the more complicated calculation, and that is this person here needs to be both over their quota and needs to be under the President's Club. To be able to do both those two simultaneously, I need to use the AND function to compare the two criteria together. So that is equal sign if with an AND function nested inside it. The first judgment call is their number value has to be equal to or greater than their quota. So let's run that test first. Cell C4 needs to be greater than or equal to their sales quota in cell D4, comma. However, they also need to be less than the President's Club, not less than or equal to, because if they were equal to the President's Club, then they would be in the President's Club. So this is cell C4 needs to be less than cell E4. Those two things have to be true simultaneously. Greater than or equal to the sales quota, not less than or equal to the President's Club. If so, comma, cell C4. If not, comma, 0. Close parentheses, and let's see what happens here. There it is. So you can see each one of these people is only in a single column. We have this column here for under quota that meets the criteria for a few of these folks, and then this person has met their quota, and this person has exceeded the President's Club value, and these folks have at least met their quota and are below the President's Club. So what we do now is we chart all of these people into the same clustered column chart. We go to the Insert tab at the top of the screen, choose the column chart or bar chart option, either one of them works just fine, and make sure that it is the clustered column example. Choose clustered column there, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim off the title and the legend down here and these things, and maybe make it a little bigger, things like that. Now, there's a problem with this chart, and the problem is that in each of the instances for person 5106-3464, they actually have empty slots here for the Met quota and the President's Club. So to solve this problem, I click on any of the columns that are in this chart and hit Control-1 to format those columns. In here, you want to make sure to overlap the series 100%. This guarantees that there is no gap left for the values that are zeros. And for that matter, let's go ahead and reduce the gap width down to something like 50%. As you can see there, I've got all my columns and they are already color-coded, but I can do a little bit better job here because I know that, for instance, all these dark blue columns, these are the people who are under their quota. So let's go ahead to the paint bucket here and fill this with, sort of a dull gray color. Then people who have met their quota, that's a nice rich blue color. That looks good. Maybe a darker blue would be good. And then the one person who's in the President's Club right here, I click on their column and, green seems like a good choice there to make sure that you can tell who has the greatest value. Then when somebody goes into their original data here and they say, oh, you know what, this person's year-to-date sales have now exceeded $720,000. Now they're up to $815,000, and I hit enter, I can see that in my visualization here now I have 2 green columns and the rest of the data has fluctuated to match. So that's how we get conditionally formatted columns of different colors in the same bar chart. We always split these out using different logical functions like if and and.